Joining us right now is Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I'm here.
All
I'm not
right.
late.
All right. All right. I'm happy. We're very happy. Are things going
Oh, I
better,
sound pretty
Mike?
good.
Yeah, you sound great tonight. You sound
Great.
great. Great.
Great.
Great. All right, Mike. Okay, I titled this show, It's About to Come. The time has come. And I shared with people the fact that Macron has announced he's going to put 300 nuclear weapons across Europe to protect all of Europe from Vladimir Putin and Russia. Macron also said today that he doesn't rule out troops that he would send to Ukraine. Macron also said you can't count on the Americans, so we got to do it ourselves. Putin said you're just one step away from World War III. And President Erdogan of Turkey said, I'm going to stop all trade with Israel. Mike, what's going on here?
Well, you missed one. You missed one.
What'd I miss?
You missed that Benjamin Netanyahu,
Yep.
right? It's going to be brought up on criminal charges.
By The Hague or somebody? Who's going to do that?
ICC.
ICC. Wow. So there's a lot of, and then you got UCLA, and you got these colleges going nuts and insane. So Netanyahu's under the most pressure he's ever been in his life. Maybe
He's going to be dragged out.
They're going to drag him out. Are they going to
They're
disarm?
gonna drag him out.
You've been saying they're going to disarm Israel.
Yes, they will.
Are they going to drag Netanyahu out of there? Is he going to finish off Hamas, or is the world going to finish off Netanyahu?
He's not going to finish off Hamas.
He's not.
No.
Okay. Tell us what's going to happen.
Well, the Middle East is in a crisis. My sentiment about the whole thing, about this world, in all honesty and speaking candidly,
Okay.
this is it. This is it.
The time.
This is it. This is what everybody has been looking for, studying for, training for, reading about, hoping for, right? Some hoping for. This is it. From the Ukraine to the Middle East to America. And I hope that everybody here in this country, in America, is ready. I hope they're ready.
Is it going to spill over? Is this war? If Benjamin Netanyahu is removed, to remove him, there has to be, the government has to fall apart and have to hold another new election. Is that going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be a chaos over there for a little bit.
And while that's going on, they won't. You're saying they will have not taken out Hamas in Gaza.
No, because the immediate action will be to put the IDF under a different type control.
Well, the question is, who puts the IDF under a different type control?
Well, you have the international community right now. They are going to involve themselves. Here's the issue. With recent events, especially about a month and a half ago, the sentiment that nobody wanted to support the Ukraine anymore, right?
Yep.
That started going forward, which is a legitimate gripe, honestly, because it's the end game of that, right? Is simply to continue, even right now, after giving the Ukraine another, a lot of money.
61
right?
billion. Yep.
This morning, they said they need more.
Yep.
Okay, so they already allotted the money they received. They do need more. And what will continue to happen is these guys are going to need somebody to pay for everything, right? That's where they are. Because not only are we paying, but Europe is paying. Everybody is trying to hold up the Ukraine. Here's the issue, though. When Putin was about to take the Ukraine, we were talking about the Ukraine, and I told you there's something in the Ukraine that Putin has to have. Now, some people know this. If the Ukraine is lost, NATO is gone. It's gone.
Okay, what is it that he's got to have in Ukraine?
The Ukraine used to be, now I know people know about the grain and everything, but underneath the Ukraine, right, the Germans were very good at making underground facilities, underground seaports, right?
Okay.
So there's a large stockpile of things down there, right? Putin knows this. He knows this. He had control of it once, and when he really became aware of what it was, he needed that back, right? He needed that back,
Okay.
and he will get it back. If he does not get it back, Russia is gone. He understands that
Is it?
because NATO was about to make their move. That's why he went into the Ukraine.
Are we
Um,
talking biological weapons?
we're talking about some pretty. Russia was known to have made the biggest nuclear weapons anybody ever saw, but not only that, there was also some hardened facilities
Okay.
in Russia that are located in the Ukraine.
Okay.
Now I doubt if they can get down there, right? Because Russia has this technique of putting about, I don't know, about 500 feet of concrete in tubes so nobody can breach it. Now they have drill bores or those bore systems that go down in there without damaging
Yep.
the entryways of these places. They sealed up quite a few places there. So here's what's going to happen due to public interference. Europe now knows that the U.S. is on a time limit to support the Ukraine, right? The
Okay.
whole of Europe knows this. They have no choice but to make a move because they understand what's going to happen to them if Russia gets hold of the Ukraine, right? We're past the mark of peace. We're beyond the mark of peace. But the support of Ukraine, obviously, is not going to continue because the people of the USA are not going to have it. And Europe cannot afford to continue to do that, right? They can't do that. So the only other option is to not allow Putin to accomplish, right, his military machine, which is to have an offensive against him. Strike. Now, Putin already knows this, right?
All right.
He also understands that if NATO continues to prop up the Ukraine, he'll never get it without absolute force. And so he's preparing for an offensive. Now we're not talking about standard offensives either, right? I would suspect that tactical nuclear warheads are going to be used in short term. Short term. They'll have to do this because the stakes are too high. China has been purchasing land in and around near Russia, right? Just in case Russia falls, China's already prepared to take up the slack for world dominance. In any scenario, the USA is not being looked at as the number one force anymore. So they're squeezing America out,
Is Joe
which
Biden
means
part of that problem?
no, he's just in the White House.
You mean so if
Right
Trump if
here,
Trump comes in,
I'm
it won't change that
now I'm gonna be honest here. If Trump likes Israel, correct?
right?
The world does not like Israel.
No.
If Trump comes in, if anybody comes in and they support Israel,
Yeah.
will be an instant target. Will have to be eliminated. That's a fact.
So big Satan, little
That's a
Satan,
fact.
that's a global problem, ain't it?
That's a fact. That's a fact. So it doesn't matter at this point. See, because we're beyond that threshold, right?
Okay.
This because of pride, and now that really bothers me because of pride, and because of all this luster that's been flying around. They forgot about the American people. They forgot how
You're right.
awful this situation is.
You're right. You're right.
Fastball is going to unfold either way, whether Joe Biden stays in or not.
You're
We're in
right.
trouble. We're in trouble. We sent most of our fleet is in support. We have to support Taiwan. We do. We have to. So if anybody were to ever case and look out for our ships, they're going to find a surprise as to where they are. We have a split interest. If Europe does not step up, take up some of the slack, the tide is going to turn quickly. They do understand, right, that we're also anticipating celestial events. So a war is being planned. It's being planned. Also, right now, Iran is still talking about hitting Israel hard. I mean,
Hmm.
hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing that was accomplished with this strike of Iran against Israel was an exposure of what Israel and Saudi Arabia and Jordan, what their capabilities were, right? Now that they have the capabilities, they're going to match the armaments to strike this time where they can't intercept because Iran has hypersonics.
Okay.
They're not going to shoot down a hypersonic with the Iron Dome. Iron Dome is nullified with hypersonics, which is why they have two sets, or not two, well, yeah, two sets of laser systems that the U.S. has been working on, right, in combination with Israel to hurry up and get those things in position, which is why we have lasers bound on warships sitting outside of Israel, because that's the only thing that can really interfere with a hypersonic. Russia, likewise, they have
So
hypersonics,
what you
and they
said,
have not used them.
so laser technology is the only thing that works with a hypersonic.
Yeah,
Do we have the
that's
capability
the
to
only
do
thing.
that from space? Do we have the Star Wars type mentality or the space war?
We do, but so do they.
Okay.
See, because Russia is bound with Iran and China. How does how does anybody think Russia has been operating this long? That Iran has been operating? We've had sanctions after sanctions after sanctions. No matter how much damage we think those sanctions do by public news, these countries have done nothing but grow. So somebody's been lying, right? Now, there are people in Congress that know about these lies, but they can't say them. They
Okay.
can't.
Okay.
If they did, it would cause too much of a ruckus, and by the time the story was straightened out, the damage would have been done. And so they really can't come out and say that. But you're looking at countries with space-based weaponry, lasers also, right? I believe that there are certain classifications that are up to 600 kilowatts now. Fastball 600 kilowatts is not good. And I know everybody thinks that the blue is going to protect them or something like that.
That won't
No,
do it.
no. All they have to do is go get a CO2 laser. It's called a CO2 laser with a tube. Go get anything blue you want. That laser is going to go right through it. Blue does not reflect a CO2 laser, a chemical laser. It does not. Blue reflects a low-powered diode laser. That's it. And it's only blue to white that does that, right? White
Okay.
is even better. Uh,
What kind of
but
blue
blue is not
reflects
going to do a
what?
thing.
Blue reflects what? I'm writing this down because I didn't know.
Small powered commercial diode lasers.
Okay.
That's all it reflects. It will do nothing against a CO2 laser. A CO2 laser beam is all the entire light spectrum. So it doesn't matter what color it is. It's going
Okay.
to burn a hole right through it at the same speed with the same intensity, right?
Okay.
There's some real stories behind these things that happened, but but
That's
boy,
another. That's
we're going to
another.
get an education real quick on a few things.
So technology. So Iran obviously and Russia has some technology that is comparable or at least competitive with the United States. That's
Well,
or
they
they
had it
would.
before we did.
Yeah, they're ahead of us
What
on that.
they had before we did.
Are we better than them now though, or are
No, no, no. It's almost like we're really propping up a house of cards. Let me ask you a question. Everybody should consider this. If we are better than these countries, why in the world are we spending money on a third party pushing them back? Why won't we do it? And we can't say it's because of international optics, right? We can't say that. Why is our economy being affected? And why? Why are we being affected so much if we can just simply overpower them?
because we can't?
That's not the case, right? These countries continue to do what they do. They continue to use propaganda in the news, right? And certain arguments that look legitimate to keep people engaged. But what's happening? They're funneling money out of the USA. That's what's happening. We're being left behind, is what's happening,
Yeah.
right? The people of the USA are still entangled. It's almost like we're stuck in the 90s and everybody else went into the 2000s except the USA.
Wow.
And then we tolerate by policy all these distractions, like these kids. with this Hamas issue,
Yeah, what's
right?
going on there?
The investigations have been out there. People have been campaigning through social media, right, to have these kids sympathize with those in Gaza. They know that, but then they give these protests, and you have these individuals that are seen maybe once or twice, and then they're gone. So they feed information to these kids, jailhouse lawyer stuff, and like this, these some of these kids are saying, we're not going to stop protesting until our demands are met. I hope they understand what they said by law. When you have a demand on commercial property and you're obstructing the standard operating procedures and laws of whoever's in charge of that commercial property, that's not a protest. You don't have demands in a
You
protest,
don't have the
right?
ability. You don't have
You
the
don't do
right
that.
to demand anything.
Right. You don't have a demand. You don't make demands like that with, certain destructive methods.
Right.
No. And so what's happening is we're being usurped in that area now through pride, arrogance, and just not knowing, because people think it's harmless. It is not harmless. It is highly destructive. It's being fed by, I hate to say it, certain members in our Congress.
I was going to ask you, where is President Biden? Where is the vice president? Where is the governor of New York? And where's the governor of California in all of this? They've just gone into hiding. I mean, no
Well, they're walking around, but what can they do? What can they do? What can they do? If Biden makes a move, right? If he says anything, he's going to lose the last 15 voters. He has, right?
Yeah.
Let's make no mistake.
Yeah.
Trump is the most popular person in the world right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
You're right.
So by optics, everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows he's in a trial, right? But at the end of the day, they're going to look at the state of the country. They're going to look at what's been happening under Biden's rule, right? Because there's been a lot of commotion under his tenure. So it's just not going to fare too well.
He's
but
got
either
a 5
way,
or 6%. He's up by about 6% nationally now. He's ahead of 6 out of 7 battleground states. I mean, but he's still got more.
I can't look at the polls.
You don't think okay? Forget the polls. But let's face it, the people are broke, busted,
He's
disgusted.
Old.
Yeah,
he's
but
old.
but Biden's older. But Biden's older.
But we're talking about Biden here. Biden's old, right? And they keep telling him he's too old. They don't think he's going to make it for
he can't make it,
another 4 years, or it's going to be too.
And Harris, you don't want Harris to take over. I mean, Lord have mercy. You talk about a fruitcake.
They're lame ducks.
Yeah.
They're lame ducks. But I'll tell you something. There's a bigger threat that could move in.
Okay.
But nobody's.
Well, what about JFK? Let me ask you about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's been.
No, he's done for.
Yeah, but he's still making he's got a 7 or 8%, maybe 10% following. Is that enough to take Biden down?
No.
Okay.
No, because what'll end up happening, those people that vote for him, those will just be lost votes on both sides.
Okay.
Right. So
yeah.
Same thing with anybody else who would get in that race. They're just going to take away votes from both sides. I believe the outcome is right now somewhat obvious. Right.
Yeah.
But here's the question though. Will we ever make it to that point?
I don't know.
See, that's the bigger question because
what could happen? The stone steps. I mean, what could happen? Let me ask you a question. Trump's going to get convicted in this trial. Let's face it. He's going to get convicted. I don't know, 4, 5, 10 felonies, whatever. I don't care if they throw him in jail or not. Will the American public still say it don't matter? We see right through this. Trump's our guy. Biden, you're killing me.
74 million people, right?
Right.
Will look right through it. 81 million people will not. So what do you have? You have civil war. That's what you have.
This is crazy, Mike. Really?
And with a broken government, with a government where you're going to have chaos within the government, because what you see happening now, right, are some Democrats who used to be strong are now starting to back up in the face of certain Republicans. That's what you're seeing now.
Yeah, because they're broke.
That's what's happening now?
They're broke.
There's a type of shift happening, right? And it's making a difference because you don't hear Democrats making speeches. You hear Republicans making speeches.
Right.
You hear Democrats evaluating what the Republicans are doing. And so this this deep divide is extremely destructive. They've turned, you know what, in my opinion, Democrat and Republican, hardly anybody knows what they originally meant. They don't. You hear even congressional members missing the mark in defining who they really are. I've never seen anything like it. But then again, you have a society that does not care anymore. They have redefined what a Democrat is and what a Republican
That's
is,
true.
right?
That's true.
They've redefined it. And so now it doesn't make a difference. Now it's like who you like the most. But either way, our focal point, our attention back in this country has suffered. And because of that, right? Because of that, people are not paying attention, right? I'll point your attention to something. All these accidents with containers,
Okay.
container ships, right? Now, there are some stories coming out that are going to mess some people up. We talked about these
Wait a
air
minute.
conditioner containers,
These
didn't we?
wait a minute. There's container ships.
Uh-huh.
Ships on the ocean with
Ships.
containers.
You remember
Yeah.
some got held out to sea. Some of
Yeah.
those
This is
containers
going
were
to
out there.
mess people up. So tell me what
When they
that
find
means.
out that whole story is coming back, right?
Okay.
The food shortage is coming back. This thing, all that's going to come back. It's really going to mess some people up. They're going to have to incorporate an unknown element into how they see the world, right? We have been slowly but surely infiltrated in ways that nobody would ever believe, right? Because they already caught 150 people inside of one of those containers that
That's
came through.
crazy.
They already have suspect containers in port right now, right? Now, how do you report that? Because these container ships go to these ports and get transported all over the place. Now, true enough, they're sorted out, at dock and in certain places, but that's a very dangerous game because now you have operatives coming in like that, right? But you've had operatives come in like that. That's the story. Like the one sinking container during the food shortage that was out to sea. It was full of people, and not just people, right?
Okay.
Not just normal people.
Okay.
These are foreign entities who belong to their armies.
Really?
Now, yeah, and if they come over here stripped down, right? Here's a question. If they come over here stripped down without the weapons and everything else, what good is a soldier without the weapons?
No good. No
You
good.
see where I'm going with
Yeah,
this?
I see
That's
where
why
you're
there's
going.
a pretty large investigation with this. And the clock is ticking because that means you have safe houses or something like that where these guys are going to be armed, right? They're going to be armed. They're already embedded in society. They already have suspects that have been intermingled with these kids that are protesting, right? Feeding
Yeah, I
this
know.
frenzy.
I know you're
And it's
right.
growing and it's going to get worse. And then something else is happening. See, it started out with Hamas,
Yes.
but then it's changing into something else, right? The crime rate against pastors' wives is going up.
What's that
Why?
about?
They're
You're
starting to
right.
blame this on the Christians
Why do they want to blame?
because of Israel.
Why they
Because
attacking the Christian pastors' wives? Leave my wife
Christianity.
alone, Mike. Tell them to leave
Christianity.
my wife alone.
Those are heartless people. Heartless people, Pastor Paul. You're talking. There's a shift in people that is so notable. There's a reason for the coldness, for the immorality, and everything else. These people are incredibly cold, and that will increase. You know what? In fact,
Can I ask you a question?
in a very short time, Christianity is going to become a dangerous title to carry.
Okay. So are you saying when you say the pastors' wives are under attack, so are the enemy infiltrating the churches? Is that what you mean? And they're going after like the pastors' wives and the close family members? Or is it the media? Is it the government? Or what do you mean by that?
The same people that were in Gaza, the same people behind the Middle Eastern crisis or this Middle Eastern attack with Israel and Hamas are over here. Same group of people. And what they're doing is they're shifting the story back to people will start hearing this word, Zionist. They're going to hear that a lot.
Yep.
They're going to hear Israel a lot.
Yep.
They want the head of Benjamin Netanyahu and his entire cabinet. They're going to go after their wives too. But then it goes back to Christianity for feeding the
The
this
Jews.
Christianity all over the world that has caused. Here's a narrative. This is what they believe. Christianity has gone all over the USA. We're the primary drivers of the message of Christ. We are, right?
Yes, yes.
And because of that, we are target number one because we are responsible for the death of those people in Gaza.
No,
Yes.
I mean, we're not. I mean, I know we're being
Well,
blamed.
you know what I'm saying.
I
though,
know
right?
you're right. I know you're right.
So now these people are operating by that. They're starting to become angry about it. They will coordinate, and things are going to happen. We're just in that. We're in that time. And while everything may seem calm now, my goodness, these are blessed days compared to what is to come.
You're saying we've come to this point now in biblical prophecy where Jesus said, "You'll be persecuted for my name's sake." So the Christians who are standing with Israel, which we're supposed to do and we want to do, and we're blessed because we do, but we are also targeted by this new world order, by this beast kingdom that's on the rise, and this radical Islamic wing that's part of it. Are we targeted when you say persecuted? I mean, are we literally, physically being targeted to be
There
killed?
were some murders. There were some murders of pastors' wives.
Yep.
And they couldn't get to the pastor, obviously.
So they killed their wives.
You know, it'll happen again. There were 2 foiled mass shootings this morning, right? I believe one was in a pastor's study.
I didn't know about that.
But it was foiled. So these stories will continue to come out, right? You know that they're going to use this as ammunition against those who support the people in Gaza. So all these stories are going to be pumped to the forefront, causing people to say it is real, and then people are going to take sides. Every time a story of controversy pops up to the front, people end up taking sides. That's what naturally happens. And then, of course, because we're in the state we're in, terrorism is going to go up because no one is going to make a move. They should have put down the protests in the colleges as soon as they started.
Oh, they should have.
A protest is one thing, right?
Yeah.
Violence should never be tolerated. They should have put it down.
What's wrong with these presidents of the Ivy Leagues schools, Mike? I mean, come on. Is there poison ivy in there now? I mean, what's happening?
I'll put this on the government too, because when somebody comes into the USA and they amplify, right, the ideologies of another country in American institutions, that's a no-go. That's a no-go.
No, that's right.
That's why we're losing our identity from too much integration, right, with other ideologies. We don't have a democracy if we continue to do that. Our democracy is based in that fundamental belief, right, in a sovereign God, and with Christ connected to it. Although there is separation of church and state, no one can deny that those documents and how they were founded. But if we lose our identity, then we'll adopt somebody. Anybody could easily step in and give us a new identity. And that's what's going to happen. That's what's happening to the USA. The identity of the USA is being changed.
Yes, that's true. I mean, I woke up this morning at 2 o'clock in the morning and watching the UCLA disaster. And I'm watching the police tearing down the plywood and the pallets, and then these kids are spraying pepper spray in their faces. So they start shooting off tear gas and detonation of those.
That's not a protest.
And they're shooting at rubber bullets. And I'm thinking, that's not a protest. This was an encampment of a demonic force of Hamas supporters against Israel. And at least, why let that set up for a week and on public property? What's wrong?
Well, the same reason, again, these kids, they're disconnected from what this country is. By the way, I use the word democracy because nobody knows what a republic is.
We're a republic. They don't know what it is. So, yes, I know.
I just use that word democracy. That's what everybody's familiar with. But think of it this way. Now, if people saw it this way, maybe it'd make a difference. How can people be allowed to protest on behalf of a foreign country in the United States of America for foreign interest. Isn't that what they're doing?
Yes.
That'd be like letting Kim Jong Il come in and just set up everything at institutions and then protest his country needs more money. The demand is to free to stop attacking Gaza or stop attacking all those folks and surrender. They want Israel to surrender and to give up land. Those are the conditions. Well, I'm sorry. That is them petitioning on behalf of a foreign government. And I believe that's already covered by law. That's
Right.
already covered by law. That's in the law and it's illegal.
It
You can't
is.
do that here. So why in the world is it being tolerated?
Let me ask you a question then as you're talking about this. Okay. Two-state solution. Trump was kind of like, hey, when he was president, he said, look, if the Jews want to do a two-state solution with their neighbors, I'm not going to stop it. But today he said that's over. There's no way there can be a two-state solution. It's impossible after what happened and where we're at now. So let me ask you, Mike, if Netanyahu's going to get removed before he can finish off Hamas, and is what you said when we first started broadcast, then what is going to happen here? Are we getting ready to see Israel throw him out and then cave in, which is maybe prophecy? What do you see happening here?
They're going to force a solution, right?
Which kind?
They're going to part that land. Is what they're
Yeah,
going to do.
you're right.
They're going
You're
to
right.
by force. They're going to part that. They're going to do everything by force.
Yeah, by force.
After they do everything by force, they're going to set up their small little temporary union and celebrate that finally we have a solution without the hardliners in the Middle East. But you know what the Bible says: when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction
There
will
you
come
go.
upon them.
There you go.
So, but that's coming. They're talking about that. They know what they're about to do. They know what they're about. They have confidence. They have 100% confidence in what they're about to do. And we're not looking at years. We're not looking at a bunch of months. That's not what we're looking at, right? They know for a fact we're on a timetable. They know about the weather conditions, right? Even right now, people should operate with. They should be preparing for water. That's what people should do, right? Here in America. Then another month it's going to be in Europe. But they're not telling anybody anything. They're giving everybody these weather forecasts, right? Did they have the last 3 days 10.6 inches of rain in Alabama?
Yeah.
Or parts of Texas and right?
Yep.
Alabama. So
Yep. Tornadoes
there's
everywhere.
a whole lot more water to come. I mean, it's not really started yet. The trending is just picking up. And what people see is terrifying them. What the people that really know about it, right, that make accurate forecasts, they understand the process and what's happening. They understand it's getting worse. And but that's going to hurt the USA even more now. When we are damaged in that way, Pastor Paul, how can we, with our soldiers having family members under duress in this country, right, through a failed infrastructure and other problems, how can they effectively have high morals going into a war?
They can't. There's no way because they're worried
We
about their
have
families.
right. We have the gender issue, the gender disagreements, right? But that
Right.
also hurts morale, right?
Right.
We have a host of issues happening, and then we have a split in loyalties.
Yep.
No one's speaking about this. A split in loyalties among our forces.
Yep.
You know what some of the younger troops say?
No.
They, when in the armed services, if somebody receives an unlawful command, something they deem as an unlawful command, they got to be careful in doing this. So, but if they receive an unlawful command, do you not know they have a right to deny that order? They have a right to take a different procedure with that order, right? But that commander has a right to shoot. If we're in a time of combat or something like that, that's an execution right there on the spot. There are loyalists in position. You remember Flynn and all these guys,
I do.
right?
General Flynn, yes.
That caused a loyalist split. A betrayal, two betrayals took place while that happened. And then that caused a loyalist split, right? So right now in the armed services, Trump made a statement. They asked him, would you accept the outcome of the elections, regardless of what it's going to be? He said, if it's fair, if I think it's fair.
Right.
But, so they said, well, what if you don't think it's fair? He said, then it's going to be war.
Yeah.
Now, was he playing? No, he was not.
No.
Because right, despite what the world thinks, there are loyalists on both sides.
Okay, so are you saying the military right now is pretty well divided? Would you say it is right now?
Well, I said what I said, right?
You just said it.
Fastball, you have to interpret that.
I will.
Right, I can't go too
I got
deep
you.
on that
You
one,
can't go no further. Okay.
because that's a serious.
I know you can't. You can't say any further. But I think you just gave us enough information that we are pretty well, folks, divided, not just among the people, the populace, but the military as well. Because Trump put a lot of good generals and a lot of good lieutenants and colonels and people in place, majors. But Biden's put a lot in on his side since he's came in. So this is a country that really is on edge, really on edge. And if this election if it goes down real ugly and neither side wants to concede, this is a dangerous, dangerous time. I mean, Trump just said, I'm just reading, yes. And there was a Time magazine article, guys. It says, if he wins. If you haven't seen this, you really should read the article. It is a well-written article on an interview with Trump. If he wins. And he said, if I win, I will pardon pretty well all of the January 6th convicted and those that are still being getting ready for trial. I'll convict them all. I will release them all. I will completely pardon them all. The other side says I will continue to pound the rest of them down. I mean, this is a big deal, Mike. This is a big, big deal. I know you don't want to go into it too far.
It is.
But this country's in trouble as far as being divided.
Well, because this is that year of the beginning of consequence. And it really appears there's high confidence that consequence is coming.
Yeah.
That consequence is coming. I just don't want people to be caught off guard.
But let me ask you, if we are divided this deeply, and Abraham Lincoln says the nation that divided can't stand, I mean, Jesus said, you can't make it. But do you think that guys like China's President Xi, in connection with Putin maybe, and even Kim Jong-un and whoever else, the Iranians are all about Israel, but the other guys would be about America for sure. Are you nervous about what the outcome of this election is about? Do we need a blowout one way or the other, a serious win?
Well, it's almost like before the election ever happens, right? We have to see if we can get through a few things in this country. It used to be, if two people fought, right, in this country, if they were just totally against each other for the sake of the country, they would come together without seeing.
Yeah, I used to do that, yes.
Right? They'd become one for the sake of the nation.
Yes.
What you see happening now, Ukraine is an example of that, because they know the price of losing Ukraine, but they also know the price of keeping it, right? So you have half the people up there, they support the Ukraine, and they show that support. Then you have the other half, which is saying this is not feasible, because the end game, again, just in case nobody understands, in order to keep the Ukraine, somebody's going to have to continue to put money into the Ukraine. There's going to be a war so long as the Ukraine is going to be there, because Putin is never going to back down. So that means we're going to have to continue to pay for it. We can't do that. That's not feasible.
No.
Right? It's not. They already need more assets, more money right now today. If they give the Ukraine up and Putin gets the Ukraine, right? If he gets the Ukraine, Europe is finished. Europe is done for.
You mean if we back out, let's say we let Ukraine fall.
Europe is dead.
We can't come back. We can't build around it. We're done.
No. Europe is dead.
Well, if that's the case, If I'm just saying, if that's the case, why in the world is there not NATO troops in there, U.S. troops? Why in the world hasn't we already started our offensive against the Russians?
They tried. They before Putin was about to take the Ukraine. Do you remember the discussions they were having? You had people saying, no, we need to commit forces to go in there right now to secure that whole place. Right? You remember that? They were going to force NATO forward. Everybody should remember that. They should force it. They were trying to get NATO to go forward. But you had Macron. It was Macron who said, nope. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
He said, no, we can't do that. And Putin started threatening NATO, saying that if you step foot in this country and if you make them part of NATO, I will attack. Right?
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Go ahead.
But now it's different. Now Macron knows what the whole story is.
Yeah.
And so now what is he saying? Commit everything to blow this guy up, to blow him up. You know, we have no choice. When they say that he needs to be targeted, that means they have an understanding that whether it happened tonight or some weeks from now, it's going to happen. They have no choice. That's a have no choice statement.
So here's your headlines, Mike. Put it up there on the screen. I know you're probably a little delay there, but Europe planning new nuclear umbrella with 300 French nuke missiles spread across the continent for showdown with Russia. Second headline, that was today. Second one today, France's Macron standing with a picture with Zelensky. France's Macron doesn't rule out troops for Ukraine. Okay. Turkey then said, Russia says, well, wait a minute. Putin warns that the West that a Russian NATO conflict is just one step from World War III. And then while we're at it, Turkey's Erdogan says, you know what? I hate these Jews. Turkey stops all trade with Israel over the humanitarian tragedy in
We
Gaza.
knew that was coming.
Yeah, you knew it was coming, yes.
And Jordan is next. Pastor Paul, but you know why Macron said that, right?
Why did he say it for?
He's already committed 500,000 soldiers in training with another 300,000 training with the 500,000. You know that, right? Right now they're training.
Wow. Is he going to send 300,000 or 200,000 or 100,000 French troops into Ukraine to fight Russia?
That's a total of 800,000 NATO troops.
Do you believe he's going to do it?
First of all, where do they come from? They're going to have no choice. The nuclear language is being used.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Here's how serious this situation is. People they have no idea, right? But I'll say it again. Everybody's lives were almost upended a couple of weeks ago. Right? Israel was stopped 4 times. They were stopped. They were going to use tactical nukes to get rid of the problem.
They were going to use tactical nukes in Gaza?
Tactical nukes were flying over people's heads. There are tactical nukes flying around all over the place, right? There are patrols taking place right now as we speak. America right now is heavily guarded in the skies. The Middle East is being probed big time, and Iran has not stopped probing all radio traffic. These guys have deciphered the SINGAR-net, some of the net systems used for communications by NATO. These guys deciphered it. Need I remind everybody that it was also Iran that took control of one of our most complicated drones, stealth drones, and landed it at one of their airfields. Did we forget about that?
Yeah.
Oh, and also, they did shut down a destroyer.
Yeah.
As a demonstration of what they had a capability to do within a specific radius. And then they let it go, right? So, you can't forget those things.
Let's talk about Iran. They fired 320 different missiles, cruise missiles, drones into Israel. And
their smallest one.
So were they just playing?
They were probing. They were seeing what the capabilities of Iron Dome would be.
They're setting up for their next deal.
Pastor, they hit 2 targets, right? Everybody knows that, right? They
Yeah.
hit 2 targets right in the bullseye. The rest of the missiles were slow, right? They were sending slow air vehicles out there. They have hypersonics they didn't even touch. If they
Right.
were to launch hypersonics, Israel would not be like it is, right now. It wouldn't be like that. They wouldn't be like
So
that.
you're
A
saying
hypersonic can launch from Iran and hit Israel in just a few seconds. That's the end of that.
you,
Nobody's going to intercept
you're
that.
saying
That would be
Iran was
that.
sandbagging, that they were playing. They said, okay, we're going to fire a bunch of stuff. We're going to let them shoot them down.
Yes,
We're going
they
to let them
were.
think that we don't have no
Yes, they
ability.
were.
We'll hit them later. Is that
Yes, they were.
okay? Okay.
And they know they did not bring out all the targeting systems. They
Is
did
Russia doing the
a
same
line of
thing?
sight firing.
Is Russia sandbagging
Russia
also?
has not touched any of its hypersonics. I remember a news article came out saying that Russia's hypersonic missile failed. It wasn't a hypersonic. And what they had tracked had been fired from the Ukraine, and it was turning as it was fired. So it wasn't Russia's missile at all. They have hypersonics, right? Those hypersonics have flown around this globe 3 or 4 times, and nobody was able to pick them up until they got back to their home bases. China did the exact
Wow.
same thing with a manned fighter. China sent a manned fighter around the globe 3 times before we could actually lock a track and find out what it was, which is why we have shifted. Naval assets have changed all throughout the oceans. So this is a very real setup that's taking place. It's going to be scares. And in fact, there was a public scare, right? It was almost like a notification to Israel. Hey, we're gonna support you, but you got to trust us. I think that somebody was allowing everybody to know that there was firepower in the air the night of a planned assault against Iran, so that Israel would back down. In the Gulf War in 1990, Operation Desert Shield turned Desert Storm. There was one particular night near the end uh, of the Gulf War that we spent hours on the radio, on the phone, talking Israel down. Israel was about to wipe Iraq off the face of the earth. They said one more scud in Tel Aviv, and there's going to be no more country. And they actually they had a fueled system, and they hotkeyed it, and they were ready to go. And we spent that was a very difficult night because it took a lot to talk them down. So Israel's a hornet's nest, right?
Yes.
Which means they have the armaments to back up everything they're saying, and they can do that at any time they want. One of the misconceptions is we have no power over Israel to stop them from doing anything, right? That's why we had to put countermeasures in the air. That's why emergency action messages were all over the place, and then target packets were being exchanged because this happened more than once, right? So you're talking about codes being exchanged, the real deal, while exercises continue to take place on the west coast of the USA, right? And then we have those same defensive exercising taking place on the east coast of the USA, and we're talking about nuclear exercises. Um, full scale, full communication and scale. We had that problem in the Middle East, and so that's a lot of money to burn up. By the way, but you just don't do that just to
Right.
guys. Let's go practice. That's not what the deal is, because you have to send nuclear bombers up. You have to send CNC aircraft up. You have to. There's a lot that goes with that. But this is what's happening, right? So everybody should expect that again. Why? There's a reason they want to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu,
Yes.
right? They're not talking about in another 2 weeks either. Just so you know, that's not what they're talking
Really?
about. No,
So
they're not
let me
talking
ask you a
about two
question.
weeks.
Who in the
This is
world's
immediate.
but who's going to walk into Israel and arrest Benjamin Netanyahu unless the
They'll do it by
government?
Benjamin. It got to the point where Benjamin Netanyahu had to warn. Listen, he said, if anybody does that, he'll have his revenge. Right? Now
Do
that
you
sounds like
okay?
it was hype.
What do
This
you?
is the international community,
Yeah, I know. But
right?
do you see his own government handing him over? Maybe, Mike.
Of course I do.
Wow.
There are about 30 people,
Wow.
right, with this cabinet, and they will all go down, right? The arrest paperwork, that paperwork for the arrest, the agreement for the arrest, um, you're looking at something that's fast tracked. So we're not talking about weeks ahead. It seems surreal, doesn't it?
So the
But
time has
it's
come.
quite ugly.
So when I said tonight's broadcast, the title, "The Time Has Come," you're saying there's like several scenarios that this is the moment. I mean, does Putin nuke Europe? Does Europe, send in troops into Ukraine? Does the United States do something outlandish? Does Israel turn over Netanyahu to a world body to try him on trials in The Hague? I mean, I'm hearing you say the time has come. Something's going to give big. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And why would they want him on war crimes unless they're trying to appease? Right. Certainly they're not
Right, of
trying to
course.
appease Hamas.
No. They're
They're
trying
not
to
doing that.
appease the rest of the world. The
There
UN,
you go.
the
There you
EU, the US,
There
the
you go.
Biden
So
administration. Right.
which means, Pastor Paul, if they don't do it, if they do not do it, the rest of the world is going to reject the entirety of the U.S. sentiment, and others who would vote along those. They're ready to move without the USA.
Right.
And that means now if what I just said is right, if they're ready to move without the USA, within 2 days you're going to hear a statement, some sort of a tactical statement that will state something close to that fact, that armies are ready to move without the USA, without
Wow.
the USA.
That's
You'll
brazen.
hear that within 2 days.
That sounds like Emmanuel Macron. He's the guy who keeps saying he's going to lead it. He even said it's time for Europe to get its own army, a European Union army. So he's the guy that wants to lead this charge. Without Biden, without the U.S., we can't wait around for the U.S., he's saying. We got to do this ourselves. Is he right?
If you didn't know that he was already training with Europe. Now think of this.
Okay.
Where did that article come out?
Today. I mean, I'm just
Okay.
Today.
Okay, today. So the average person would think, oh, he's about to train with Europe, right?
Yeah.
Here's the deal, though. He's been training with Europe.
I believe you.
They've been running simulations.
Or he couldn't say that.
They've been training in combination with Zelensky. They've been training with you. The UK, in fact, is one of the only ones who is quite reserved right now, right?
Right.
But as far as everybody else, they have moved on, right? Something else is happening.
Wow.
So that means the world is ready to move, because again,
there's no American leadership either.
China's taking inch by inch. They're getting closer to Taiwan. While nobody is talking about Taiwan right now, China has been inching. They've been taking territory. Do you know that? They're about to put when you do something slow, nobody pays attention, right?
Right.
It'd be like this: if you had two houses and you had a next door neighbor, but nobody had a fence, and every day you noticed a flower was closer and closer to your house, 1 centimeter. You'd say, okay, you got to remove that. The next day you come out, it's a centimeter closer, right? Now, because it's so harmless and so slow, you think you have time to sort things out. But one day you're going to come out and the flower is going to be on the side of your house. And the moment you try to pluck it up, they're going to say, no, this is ours, right? That's what they're doing to Taiwan right now. They have the military is crunching them in, right? This is happening in real time. What can the USA say? It's such a small matter. It's been a small matter for 2 years now, and they've been taking ground, right? And China's been moving out in all directions. Again, they have to be ready just in case Russia doesn't quite make it through their conflict with the USA. China is positioning itself for the fallout. Right. Yep. So they will both aid, but they will also position themselves for the fallout. This is why they have been buying land up. They've been doing a land grab this entire time.
Mike from the world's with us tonight, guys, and bringing it into reality. The time has come. It sounds like, Mike, what you're saying is we're at a showdown that it has no choice but President Trump is on trial in a joke. Biden's asleep. Macron thinks he's the leader. Putin is moving forward. The Russians are sitting back waiting for their opportunity to take Taiwan. Kim Jong-un could push a button at any time to when the moment's right, to attack South Korea. This is the vortex of evil. We're in the end times. Jesus is sitting on the throne. The church is asleep. Nobody wants to hear about this. The colleges are going insane. They've been infiltrated for 50 years. They've been the world has been turned against God, and so we're at this moment, Mike, where the reality, and then we got Planet X or something out there, a pole shift coming. We're going to talk about that in our webinar. You know, I was reading earlier about Immanuel Velikovsky, and you know, he wrote those books about the pole shift, and all of a sudden there's Albert Einstein, probably the smartest guy in the world. He died reading Immanuel Velikovsky's book on worlds of collusion, worlds in collision. He died reading it. He's laying there on top of because he realizes something's going on. And the Bible tells us all these prophecies. So, Mike, what is your recommendation to the people, 10,000 people listening right now? What is your recommendation live and to the thousands that are going to watch us by archives? What is your recommendation?
Well, two things. And you have to hear the whole thing, but two things. Number one,
I'll listen.
We all know a dark kingdom is rising.
Right.
This is God's prophecy. Even in the Bible, it says that God puts it in the hearts of the 10 kings to give their kingdom over to the beast 1 hour with him.
Yes.
So it's all God's will. The dark kingdom acts as a vacuum. So anything dark will be attracted to it, not those of light. No one who is written in the book of life will be attracted to that dark kingdom.
No.
That means it's an opportunity for God's people. See, everybody has a complaint, Pastor Paul. You know what they say? Well, every time I try to introduce Christ to someone, there's resistance. There's a distraction over here and this over here. See, something is about to happen. People will not care to express what's really inside them. Now, for some people, they're going to show a real ugliness, but for others, it's going to be a true desire for Christ. Because once people see what's been hidden all this time, because all the hidden evil is about to come straight to the front, it's going to be distasteful at first, but remember, this is the doings of our Lord. It's the Lord that opens the seals, not the devil.
Amen.
It's the Lord's angels that blow the trumpets, not the demons.
Amen.
Right? So the Lord is doing all this. That means all of Revelation is for us. It's for our deliverance. But that means it's little time for those in the world, right, who we've been sent here for someone. And we have to go find out who. We've been sent here with a message, the gospel. That's why people believe. And the time is also now that we not hold anything back anymore. Not to be bold and force the Bible down somebody's throat.
No.
But never to be afraid to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. So
Amen.
The final thing is, do we agree with his established gospel or not? Because right now, with all the hybrid stuff that's out there, and all the change, the gospel in many people's mouths is starting to falter and alter, Pastor Paul. They're not doing altar calls.
No.
They're not talking about Christ. In some sermons, you don't even hear the word Jesus Christ.
My Lord.
Right? So there's a severe change. As a consequence, immorality is rising. Darkness is rising. That thing that happened in the Florida Mall, we'll talk about that if we can next week, because there's something that everybody should know. Right?
Yeah.
I guess it's safe to say it now.
All right, that down.
Florida Mall. Let's just say that it was not. Let's just say that
the aliens in the Florida.
It wasn't pretty, right?
We're going to talk about that
but
next
anyway,
week. Okay.
Anyway, there are things happening in the earth, right? There are people suffering, but they're also primed. They're primed to accept Christ because now the people who are selected for salvation are being called forward. And God calls those people forward through people just like you, just like the audience, right? We are vessels of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and people are about to be primed to receive the truth, no longer the deceitful things, but the truth, right? Even some of the things that we're not sure about, Pastor Paul, they're going to melt away. right?
Amen. Amen.
We're going to see the truth of everything also, which will clarify all these end times events.
Amen.
But we're here. And no one, not one soul, will escape what the Lord has for them, whether that be salvation or whether it be damnation. Nobody guilty will ever escape. They've not
Amen.
gotten away with anything, right?
Amen.
And nobody who has suffered for the sake of Christ has lost a thing.
Amen.
The reward is coming with him. Yeah.
He's coming with his reward in his hand. You're exactly
Yes, he
right.
is.
Mike, this has been a powerful, maybe one of the most powerful shows I've ever seen that we had. So much truth has come forward. The time is now. I told people tonight the truth will come out, and I really do, I 100% really do appreciate what you share with us tonight. Thank you for being faithful, Mike. Seriously, thank you for being faithful for what you do and how much it's helping the body of Christ on these nights. And I thank you for that. And I just want to say once again, I just want to thank you again because souls are coming to Jesus and they need to know what's happening. So thank you, brother.
Pastor Paul, it's an honor. As always, I always hope I'm of help. I do.
Oh, believe me,
I
you
do.
are. Believe me, you are. God bless you. I'll see you next week. And
God
I wrote
bless
it down. Florida Mall
right.
aliens.
Oh, yes.
Whoa.
Yep.
We'll talk about that next week. Okay. God bless, brother.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.